Shalom, Israel. It's Thanksgiving Day 2020, and this is a day that I do not celebrate. This is the day where the lie that's been told, where the Pilgrims and the Native Americans came together and broke bread. But I'm gonna show you how that's a lie that they tell. This is a day that millions of Native Americans were slaughtered, and the Native Americans are the Gadites of the 12 tribes of Israel, just like the African Americans, so-called African Americans, are the tribe of Judah. So they are also Israelites. There are a lot of Native Americans that know their history and that part of history, of their Hebrew history, and they do not celebrate this day. But those that do uh, really don't know much about their Hebrew history. And when they take part in this Thanksgiving, they have no idea what they're eating at that table and what it represents. But I'm going to show you after I read just a little bit of history. The first reference of Plymouth Rock was 100 years after the founding fathers came to the Americas. In 1614, Captain John Smith and his crew was rescued by Pocahontas at the Jamestown colony. Captain John Smith turned against the Pocahontas and enslaved the Paxuk and Nassau Indian tribes bound for England. The explorers left behind smallpox diseases from unclean crew members and the blanket they carried at Cape Cod. The Pilgrims left England for Holland because of religious freedom in 1608. The Pilgrims left Holland for the Americas in 1620 because of overpopulation. They sailed the Speedwell and the Mayflower ships, but the Speedwell began to leak so bad they joined up with the Mayflower to continue on to the Americas. It took 2 months of rough waters. The ship did not land at Plymouth, Massachusetts. It landed at Cape Cod. Cape Cod originally was already named the Patuxent, home of the Wampanoag tribe. When the Pilgrims landed, they remained on the ship. Half the crew did not survive due to the diseases from being on the ship for more than 65 days. After a few days, the Wampanoag tribe was observing the Pilgrims and decided finally to help the Pilgrims survive. The Wampanoag has 6 festivals each year, which coincide with the Hebrew festivals of the Bible. Squanto, an Indian from Patuxent, traveled with the Pilgrims, John Waymont, back to England, where he learned English. Squantos was captured and sold to Spaniards as a slave. A priest helped Squantos to get back to New England to find his village wiped out from the disease brought from the Pilgrims. March 22nd, 1621, there was a peace treaty made between the Pilgrims and the natives. When the Europeans got word of the New World, more Europeans set sail for the Americas. The Europeans called the natives savages, just like they called black folks the N-word. Always got some kind of derogatory word for all the Israelite tribes. The natives, over the years, taught the Europeans how to crop and build homes. The Pilgrims stayed drunk and never bathed. As the Europeans grew over the years, they started to turn against the Wampanoag. They formed a 4-brigade military around the Pilgrim villages. In 1637, the Wampanoag was having their Green Corn Festival, now known as Thanksgiving. This is what they built the lie off of. They was having a festival. Okay, now listen to it. What happened after that? European pilgrims raided Indian goods and slaughtered Wampanoag and Pequot women. These are the Native Americans. Women, men, and infants and children in small villages. That was in 1620. This is what they did every time they had a festival. Here come the Europeans or the English people slaughtering village after village after village, and they were celebrating every time they had a slaughter and took that land, stealing that land, until the governor told them to have one festival, and that's why you have this Thanksgiving once a year. The next morning, the Indian village was surrounded by Dutch and mercenaries, ordering the Indians to come out of their homes. Men and women and children were slaughtered. They were burned, hung upside down, and infants slammed against walls and hung by their ankles. The next day, the Massachusetts Bay Colony declared a day of Thanksgiving, killing over 700 men, women, and children. They soon attacked village after village. Children under 14 years of age were sold into slavery, spreading Indian slaves abroad. Following a raid against the Praquow tribe, the churches announced a second day of Thanksgiving, celebrating victory over the heathen savages. After they sat there and taught them and helped them people, I think it was like 25 years that passed, and here they are turning their back on them. They're the same way today, just taking land and villages. That's Esau. They do the same thing in the Middle East. During this feast, they cut off heads. The cut off heads was kicked around the streets like a soccer ball, giving birth to the game called football or soccer. The chief of the tribe head was put on a pole in Plymouth. For 24 years, George Washington declared a feast of Thanksgiving only once a year. Abraham Lincoln made the Thanksgiving a legal holiday during the Civil War. He also conquered tribes in Minnesota. The turkey is the symbol of the pagan god Amun-Ra. The men, women, and children that were slaughtered. The stuffing represents the infant children torn from the pregnant native mother's womb, just taken right out of the womb, that the pilgrims murdered, tortured, and killed. That's the stuffing. The cranberry sauce represents the bloodshed of the Native American men, women, and infants and children slaughtered by the pilgrims. Thanksgiving celebrated today is a cover-up of the genocide and slaughter of millions of Native Americans in order to steal and destroy their native land. So if you are Native American and you sitting there at a Thanksgiving dinner and you know better, it's woe unto you, and woe means destruction. I don't understand a lot of people calling themselves, they know they're Indians or Native Americans, and they bought into the American lie, and they refuse to let that, not only the lie, but the celebration of this faggot gay savior they called Jesus, the Greek god Zeus, and they turn around and say that they know they're Hebrews. I just don't understand that. If you're a Hebrew, stick to your Hebrew customs. Now those of them that don't know, then they just don't know. Then learn it. But there's no way I'm gonna celebrate something like this, and they done the same thing to black people, my people, and hung us by trees and poles and celebrated, and had the American flag and the rebel flag hanging next to the dead body. I can't do it, and I'm not gonna do it. 1974 Thanksgiving Day. On November 28, 1974, the Redskins were 8-3 and ready to secure a playoff berth with a win against the Cowboys, 6-5, in a nationally televised game in Dallas. With less than 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, Washington was leading 16-3 when the Redskins linebacker Dave Robinson knocked Roger Staubach out of the game. Rookie Clint Longley led the Cowboys to a last-minute come from behind victory, throwing a 50-yard touchdown pass to Drew Pearson with 28 seconds left in the game. Final score was 24-28. This mess here, this is what another thing that they celebrate. You notice on every Thanksgiving Day you have like now I think that they get kicked off the Redskins and the Cowboys football game. The Dallas Cowboys represents the Caucasian race, or the Englishmen that came over here and slaughtered the Indians. The Washington Redskins represents the Native Americans, and they have this game every single year on Thanksgiving, representing the not struggle but the war against the Native Americans. And the majority of the time, especially if the Cowboys win, it's like the celebration of the defeat of the Native Americans. But it's a celebration game for the slaughter of the Native Americans. Those two teams play every year. I think from what I just read, 74, but I think it went back into the 60s. But early in that time was when they started taking these two teams to play each other. I want to say maybe 72, something like that. 72. Somewhere in there where they started just to have these two teams go against each other. Another celebration of the slaughter of the Native Americans and still in this land. And then they want you to bow down to this flag. As evil as it is, but that's okay because this destruction is upon this country anyway. Oh, okay, here we go. Now tomorrow is considered Black Friday. Black Friday is the sale of Negroes. Okay, I'm going to read that because I know a lot of you are going to be off. This is the sale of Negroes, and I'm going to read it so you will see again what you're celebrating. But when you don't know history, they tell you anything. I was sell by public auction on Tuesday for next court being the 29th of November. 8 valuable families servants consisting of one Negro man, a first-rate field hand. Number one boy, 17 years of age, a trusty house servant, one excellent cook, and one housemaid, and one seamstress. The balance are under 12 years of age. They are sold for no fault, but in consequence of my going to reside north, I think that's what that is. RESIDE. Also a quantity of household and kitchen furniture stable. This is stuff that they were selling. This is stuff that was being sold on what they call today Black Friday. And they also added slaves into things that they were selling, which is what I just called off the different children that were to be sold. This was in 1859. Then we was put on auction blocks as well. That's the auction block. All this was on a Friday. And they kept this tradition going. It's an old tradition of Black Friday. And I don't buy nothing on Black Friday because of what it represents. Here's another famous picture I'm sure you're familiar with. See? All this was on big sales on Black Friday. So I wanted to run that by you right quick, and I'll show you Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to show you how it's in Scripture. I'll show you how it's in scripture about the Native Americans as well. 28, 22, 27. Deuteronomy 28, 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with a inflammation, and with the extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcasses shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The land will smite thee with a botch of Egypt, and with the emeralds, and with the scab, and with the itch thereof thou canst not be healed. This happened with the Native American Indians. What I just read, when they came over here with the blankets with smallpox. So that shows you that was Deuteronomy 28, 22 through 27, to show you that they are part of the Israelites. That happened to them. So I'm going to end this because I wanted to make this quick. Shalom to you, and I hope you learned something.